Well, thank you very much, and welcome to the first of today's sessions. And we're going to be talking about the Macquarie Arc and the opportunities for discovery there, and also a little bit else around New South Wales. But before we get our panel up on the stage here to talk about that, I'd like to just talk about what the Geological Survey of New South Wales is actually doing in this space to help facilitate discovery. What's been driving it in New South Wales, apart from metal demand, has been a forthright interest by the New South Wales government to encourage a critical minerals and high-tech metal sector in New South Wales. That's articulated in the critical mineral and high-tech metal strategy, and this morning you would have heard the Premier of New South Wales speaking very strongly in terms of the government's desire to encourage exploration success in New South Wales and the downstream processing of those resources. But this has given us a framework out to 2032 in order to up our efforts in assisting exploration and discovery in New South Wales through pre-competitive data. One thing that differentiates our critical minerals strategy from others is we've always recognised the importance of copper. It doesn't appear on most people's critical minerals list, but in New South Wales we were always absolutely clear that copper is an extremely important part of the future metal needs going forward. All this stuff needs to be hooked up, and it's going to have to be using copper. So we have included that, and that's why it's a critical mineral and high-tech metal strategy to include copper and other key elements that we know that we have good opportunities for in New South Wales, but are also important for that energy and high-tech transition. So what are we doing in New South Wales? We're providing continuous improvement of the map geology of the state, age, dating and data quality. We have an annual report release policy that is capturing all historical company data and putting that up online. And we are providing new insights into the fundamental understanding of the state, commodity-specific studies, and also a major up-ramp in our mineral system studies to understand the transport of heat and metals through the crust to form mineral deposits. Even our paleontologists are in on the act with very important work that is helping to define that critical relationship between the top of the Ordovician, the top of the Macquarie Arc and the Silurian and Devonian cover rocks across the state. We're also upgrading the geophysics. We've had a paper published recently that looks at ways of stitching and correcting geophysical data in large bouts. We have our 12 key 250,000 sheets which maintain geophysical data sets at resolutions as good as 10 metres, and that's updated 1 year for magnetic and 1 year for radiometric, so on a rotating basis. We also have an airborne gravity merge across New South Wales that was flown to help to prove the geodesy of the state. That product is now available, and we'll be flying more detailed airborne gravity in the Macquarie Arc in the next year or two at a very close resolution. As part of that geophysical upgrade, we're going through and doing specific stretches that are based on 250,000 sheet areas or less, rather than a one stretch fits all approach. That's the Broken Hill data. That's been corrected to a locally appropriate stretch, and you can see the substantial improvement in the resolution of the data. We also have a very aggressive seismic acquisition campaign that started out in the Yathong Trough, has moved across the Cobar Basin and the Hermidale terrain, and now we're hitting a bit of topography as we head east, as we're now pushing those lines across the Macquarie Arc. This year we finished one line as far east as Bathurst and are planning a major campaign north of there, up to Dunedoo to extend those lines, across the northern part of the Journey, Narromine and the Molong Belt. And this will help with the fundamental understanding of structures, particularly those very important vertical structures that we have that can be very important to secondary shear-hosted gold. So a lot of new geophysical, over 1,000 open file geophysical sets are now online. major upgrading and refurbishing of the W.B. Clarke Geoscience Centre. That will also have a major engagement and outreach function as well, but a lot of handheld technology there now that is available for the use for visiting exploration geos. The High Logger 4, we're leading the world in that technology. We're the first to acquire one, the first one to get up in production mode. The resolution on the imagery that's coming out of this is just absolutely extraordinary. That's 1 centimetre scale there. And also that mid-infrared is going to change by an order of magnitude the power of this in terms of identifying mineral species. So for example, we're using these things to map carbonates in high detail, and also three-dimensional mapping of ore deposits. This is the McPhillamys ones based on carbonate chemistry. Also Broken Hill, this is the first time the Broken Hill core has been high-logged. We can see sulfides now in the mid-infrared, and the resolution is enough that we can look at very small-scale geochemical variations in garnets based on the high logger results. And it'll also be able to be used like that for micas, biotite and amphiboles, exactly what you need for porphyry copper exploration as well. So you can do mineralogy with this thing rather than having to use an electron microprobe. So anyway, very exciting developments going on in that space. Mineral systems, we're doing studies at all scale, from the micro scale using phenocryst chemistry to look for fertility, and then through to mineral system studies on whole rock geochemistry, upgrading that using all the modern geochemical techniques of old analytical powders. That includes lithium tetraborate fusion and 4-acid digest, which has become the industry standard. So both those data sets are being made available, and we've been able to use that to look closely at the Macquarie Arc geochemistry again, and all that data is free and available online to have a look at that. And particularly the Silurian chemistry has turned out to be extremely interesting. There's a lot going on way after the arc is shut down up in that Silurian space from a geochemical point of view. Other new things that we're bringing out are thermal and isotopic mapping across the state to look for the source of metals, the source of sulphur, and also the the sources of heat, where heat has occurred around the state. We've done this in the Cobar Basin, extraordinary detail showing that all the hot surrounding rocks are where there is copper, and all the lead, silver, zinc things, the rocks are cold as hell immediately around the deposits themselves, and also the lead and sulphur isotopes showing cleared mixing between a seawater source and magmatic sources in the copper-rich deposits. So we can map the whole province. We're moving that east across the Macquarie Arc to New England now. We hope to do the entire state. The beauty of the High Logger 4 is those very subtle shifts that you can use to tell heat and the B and spacing of micas can be picked up by the High Logger. So we can go back through all the Semitic rocks in New South Wales that have been high logged in the past, and we can calculate those thermal parameters. Stratigraphic units, we're updating all those across the state that are important to explorers, and we're having a major mapping campaign in the Rocky Golgong belt to try to date that and understand it better, and also doing individual commodity assessments across the state. We did mine tailings, was the first cab off the rank. We've done high purity silica, and now we're doing cobalt and trace metal chemistry of pyrites across the state to follow on from that to really get to understand how cobalt behaves in our sulphide system. Similarly for potential for lithium in New South Wales, greatly enhanced by the new geochemistry. Annual report lists hundreds of millions of dollars of data being released each year through this capture of old exploration reports and putting them up online. If you are doing any work in New South Wales that is downloading large sets, do a clean set each time because of the sheer amount of data that's being added all the time, and you can see that nearly a 30% increase in downhole geochemistry in the last 1 or 2 years alone. So I'd like to thank you very much for bearing with me through that, but there's a lot going on in the geological survey space, but that's just part of a very exciting story that's going on in the Macquarie Arc and across New South Wales in general. Thanks very much.